I am Yamato Cannon, and this is Muffin, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel.
Whenever I make content, you know I must have had my caffeine for the day, and my caffeine source of choice is, of course, Delicious Gamer Subs, where you can always get 10% off everything on their site using the code Thorin, THORIN, at gamersubs.gg. I would suggest this is in a very nice flavour, Goof Juice by Moist Critical, or in collaboration with him. It's actually a strawberry kiwi. It's quite a delicious flavour all in all. I think it's got a really nice balance. Those are two flavours that are nice on their own anyway. They blend really, really well to really pleasant flavour profile from the beginning flavour to the end. And obviously has no sugar like usual Gamer Subs, etc. So get 10% off everything on the store with the code Thorin. So don't just be a sheep and just drink energy drinks like any old pleb tells you to. How about actually take pride in what you're drinking? And they won't have to pony up as much if you use the code Thorin for 10%. It's actually a unicorn, but whatever. We can all crowbar stuff, as this video is going to show you, because Caliste is already the most hyped rookie in the history of esports, and he has never played a single official game in a major league in the game he is hyped in, League of Legends. As in, pick the worst player from last year's LCS, and that player has already shown more at a level anyone actually cares about for the greatness of League of Legends than Caliste ever has in his career so far. And yet, Caliste is a player who's not only replacing actually an outgoing, one of the best ADCs we've had for years, Upset from Karmine Corp in the LEC team, but people are already talking like as if he, before he plays game one, is already like ahead of Handsama, like as I say, Upset. Like people are already trying to draw comparisons to Reckless and all the base players. And in fact, it goes way further than that, as this video will highlight. This isn't a video just about the Caliste angle. It's actually about how people are framing this whole thing. Because it's bad enough, by the way, that people are already acting like in Caliste's case, and they've done it with other people too. He's the next Caps. Like, they're acting like he's going to be on that scale, right? By the way, the next Caps was almost as bad as the next Jordan. It's aged fucking terribly. Like, first of all, Humanoid was supposed to be the next Caps, right? He didn't really come close ever. If you don't know, by the way, he was only even an LEC champion in, 1 year ever in League of Legends. Nemesis, I mean, how did that work out? None of them made it. And by the way, there were plenty of names I won't even bring up who people were implying could be this sort of like a dom and could be right up there with Caps if they went to the LEC. And some of them didn't even get to stay in the LEC for more than 1 year. So that already sucks. But he's not even being presented as the next Caps. He's being presented, if you look at how it's being framed, as the next Faker. If you don't know, Faker, I would say, if you go by resume, is the GOAT of League of Legends. And in that context, you could also say by resume, it can be the GOAT of esports. So we're just taking the greatest outlier ever in the history of esports, and we're taking a player who's yet to essentially play one game ever, and we're already saying, he's basically the next Faker. It's impossible to overrate anyone more than this. This is actually the absolute limit test case of credulity of how much you can overhype and overrate one player, no matter who he is. So he's being presented not just as the next Caps, but as like the next Faker or the next king of esports, all of which are utterly absurd, but on even worse and more ridiculous scales. So at the outset, I'll make a point very clearly, because if you actually know Thorin's thoughts, I would say probably the most balanced actual op-ed content in the history of esports, because even when I don't like someone, I'll always point out things they did well or where they succeeded or facts about their career, even if I may not like aspects of their personality or how they're presented. But people will always, who just don't want to listen, just go, hey, just give it all biased opinion. And you didn't say this, that, and the other, and they don't even watch the video. So I'm going to say at the beginning a point that won't matter to stupid people, because stupid people don't care about points. They just care about what makes them feel good. And so this video will be taken as me saying, Caliste sucks. Caliste will never be a good player. Caliste will fail in the LEC. Caliste won't even be good in Karmine Corp. Or what else? Caliste will never be, or can never be, a top EU player. Caliste can never be one of the best players in League of Legends. Caliste will never be very good, or will never be a king of European. It'll be all those things. And I know this from how people behaved when I had that thing where I said Fallen was overrated in CS, and what people actually took from that. By the way, here's another good example that I always see people run into in Counter-Strike. You know when the player Monacy was signed by G2, a Russian AWPer, because he came out of the academy system, comparable here to ERL actually. In fact, you can even argue academy is even worse level than ERL, although it depends. I guess in the world of Counter-Strike, it's a smaller overall scene because we don't really have Asia as much. So I guess it's actually comparable. When this player got bought, who'd already ever played at the academy level, by G2 as like a star AWPer, the buyout at the time was $600,000, it was reported. Now, look, nowadays that's nothing. And in fact, that wouldn't even be what you'd have to pay for a top talent. You'd have to play probably twice as much for that. In fact, we heard even Donk supposedly, but when he only just came in the scene, was like millions and millions to buy. So obviously, now the scale of the buyouts has gone so high, that's not even that crazy. In fact, now that's a slam dunk. You'd do that instantly for Monacy. But the problem was, he wasn't Monacy back then. He was some rookie no one had ever seen play, except in the Academy League. And no, actually, with the way esports and competition works, you can't guarantee that a guy who's dope at a lower level, anyone who watches American football knows this, will handle the pressure of being at the top, of being in the biggest league, of being on the biggest team, of being expected to be the best at a lower level, and then not just be good or competent at the next, but to be the best at the next level. So when that deal happened, me and Kassan have pointed out many times that actually G2 didn't do a very good deal. It wasn't great business to sign that player for $600,000, even though, and this is the relevant point, he now has totally proven to be worth that. And if you knew what you knew now, not only would you sign him for 600k, you'd go up to millions, because if you don't know, he himself is a very legit contender for player of 2024 in CS. He was already an elite player the year before that. So basically, after his rookie year where he had a few stumbles, but he's still a top 20 player, after that he's been like one of the best players, and this year at times I thought he was the best player in Counter-Strike. But at the time the deal was done, he could have been a bust. It might not have worked out. Maybe there'd been all cultural issues. Maybe it'd be the case that, like, actually, it turns out he doesn't even like to play professionally, or he can't handle it, or there's a million factors. So that wasn't a great deal, even though now, in hindsight, we know that it worked out and is awesome. Point is, they couldn't know that at the time. So the basic assumption, because I've said this title, and I'm now going to point out how ridiculous the framing around Caliste is, will be that I don't like Caliste. I want him to fail. I am saying he will fail. But if you've listened to all the things I said in the video, none of that's about it. Because you know why? This video isn't actually about Caliste. It's about other people framing who Caliste is going to be before he has done it. By the way, I don't pretend otherwise. I've barely seen this guy play. When people kept hyping him over last year, I watched a few games of him in the LFL. I tend to only watch LPL deep in the playoffs if a team's super hyped, like, this guy's going to be really good, or coaches tell me, watch out for this apart player or whatever. Or I'll wait till EU Masters and see who starts going deep, and I'll watch some of the semis and the finals. So I've seen a few games. You know what? Seems like a pretty fucking talented player. And I don't just mean like a bunch of people, hey, a lot of people have got talent and stuff. No, he seems like a rookie. Absolutely, you'd be all over this guy. And if you're French, by the way, wow, wouldn't you be watching this? Looks like he's going to be really talented. But the problem is, looks like he's going to be really talented isn't the same as welcome to the Prince of Esports, the next king of the whole fucking industry. That's insane. Do you see what the difference between a reasonable take and an utterly fucking credulity limit test case of how stupid a comment you could possibly make? So here's another reason why I don't go further than he's pretty talented, like he could do a lot, is holy moly, are we all going to pretend we haven't seen ERLs before? ERL level is probably the most difficult to gauge eye test wise talent in all of League of Legends, as in compared to the major regions. Because at least in the major regions, you know the players they're playing against, like how good that guy is, like how good Upset is, or how good Yike is, or how good fucking Mickey X is, or Labrov, or whoever you want to pick. You know how good they are, so you have a sense of someone playing against them, how good they might be. You have no way to know when they're in the ERLs. I've always said League's a terrible game anyway for the eye test, because the game itself scales against you when you're on the losing team and they're getting snowballed on. So unlike Counter-Strike, where you can just beat yourself every few rounds when you get the reset and you get the guns again and you're at an even ground, you're not in a League of Legends game. So it's very, very hard, especially when people already then play on the top teams. And by the way, the LFL, notorious for throwing up false positives, of players who look dope in the LFL and never make it in the LEC, or are just average, or are just nobody. Players who dominate that league, who look fucking sick, and then they come to the LEC and they're either just good or they're actually average, or sometimes they're straight out bad, or just nothing, and they just have to go away again. I mean, I'll just put it out there. One of the reasons why is obvious. You have those teams like LDLC and Karmine Corp who at their peak can dominate those leagues. Well, again, if you're on the best team with the best coaches and the other best players in that league and all the rest of that jazz, and you've got veterans, the right veterans to go with the right rookies, people can just be skewed and look way better than they potentially are. I could have made some straight fire joke there with like skew, and then the fact like monde in French is like the word for world, so it's like you've skewed the whole world about how good a rookie. See what I'm doing there? I'll save that. That can be on Best Damn League Show or something. We'll workshop that one, don't worry. So anyway, the point is, no one can know how good this guy is, but I'm not making a case either way about how good he is. The point, it is ridiculous to frame it this way, and so let's get into it, shall we? Because the thing that made me think about doing this video, I could have done it anyway, was this article being released. L'Equipe, so very famous French sports magazine, if people don't know, has written an article here about Caliste. The title is Caliste, le petit prince de l'esport. If you don't know, that means Caliste, the little prince of esports. Now, you might get tricked by esports. Oh, just like of league. By the way, let's just start there. Let's just start how insane the opening fucking gambit is, the title. So, this is even worse than Faker winning PC Player of the Year, by the way. This is like saying someone is the next Jordan, but in this case, they haven't even played an NBA game. In this case, they're just a guy who was really talented in the college level or won March Madness or something. And you're going, it's the next Jordan. Now, you can tell that would be ridiculous. What an insane mantle to put upon someone. And you can't overhype someone more than he's the next Jordan, can you? So here's my problem, is even if this title was tweaked and said, Le Petit Prince de la LOL l'esport, right? If it was the little prince of League of Legends esports, that in itself would be fucking insane. It would be the most overhyping you could make anyone in League of Legends. Because think about how irrelevant a French ADC who has never played a major region league game is compared to currently the best Chinese or Korean player. So pick the best right now, like fucking Bin or Chovy or Knight or Zeus, some of these like stud players, right? Take these players. Yeah, tell you what though, they're just players in League, but the prince, as in the lineage to be the next king of League of Legends, they're not even saying that, they're saying all of esports. The next king of all the League of Legends is just this guy who's yet to play a game in LEC. That's already insane. That's already bonkers. This isn't even like Counter-Strike, where if you're like a mega rookie in Counter-Strike, there only is Europe and North America pretty much. There's always the factor if you're a Western player that probably the Chinese and Korean elites are going to be better than you. And not only are they going to be better than you, they're going to be quite a bit better than you, even if you're caps, by the way, even if you're double, even if you're perks, even if you're the best Reckless, whoever, the best Westerners we've ever had, so as they're not actually the best player in League of Legends if it's not 2012, are they? They just can't be. And so when we're talking about the kings of League of Legends esports, they're all in Korea and China, mate. All of them. Caps could be like the king of European League of Legends, but there's no way he's the king of League esports. But we're already putting this guy past that. This guy's the prince of, not even League of Legends, just esports. But even if it was the prince of League of Legends esports, it would be fucking insane. It would be utterly absurd. Like, by the way, like I just said, in terms of being the king of esports, Caps himself is irrelevant in that context. Compared to Faker and Chovy, Chovy right now is a peak player and Faker is historical resume, Caps is just some player. They're the kings, they're the royalty. He's just like, I don't know, a duke or something, or some fucking dope-ass knight or something. Like, even though he had his own peak where he beat Faker, won MSI, that gave him some relevance in like is he one of the best players in the world, or is he the best Western player? It never made him like a prince of esports, the future king of esports. No, because we all know that's absurd. That's absurd even for Caps, and even at his peak Caps, or even Caps now. And by the way, it would be a reach to even say Caliste is going to end up being Caps, because we've only ever had one Caps. Like, let's just get into that for a second. Let's just talk about the idea of being Caps. So we're talking about someone who not only has won a gazillion domestic titles. Remember, from 2018 onwards, he's winning domestic titles, except 2021, the Reckless lineup. Aside from that, every year is just stacking titles all the time. Usually all the titles. Not only that, that's like the top end where he wins the title. Do you know the worst ever finish Caps has ever had? Remember, he's played since 2017 in EULCS/LEC. The worst playoff finish Caps has ever had is 4th place. He's had a couple of 4ths and a couple of 3rds. That's it. In the finals, he's lost once ever. He's won MSI. By the way, normally Westerners don't get to win international competition beyond, 2012, etc. He's a 2-time Worlds finalist on different teams, and he was in 3 straight World semi-finals across 2 different orgs as well. Like, the idea that someone's even going to be the next Caps is an incredible reach, and you're putting the highest possible expectations and the most amount of pressure ever on that person. And that's just to be Caps, not the king of esports, not the prince of esports. Not any of those things. But for it to be all of esports is so fucking mental. And I'm going to get to this later. The response that everyone else is gaslighting you, this isn't mental, is even fucking crazier. Because think about this. If anything, the prince of esports would have to be someone who already is established as like royalty in esports, and they just need to take the next step to become the king of esports. That would be like Donk right now, the best player in Counter-Strike, just won the major, won Katowice this last year, still 1 year into his career. Sky's the limit. Chovy was looking like he was going to be the best player ever this year, putting together one of the best individual years ever played. Many time over champion, still hasn't won the big one in his case. Those people feel like to get to the number one status, he needs to do that to become the king of League of Legends. Those players, it makes sense. Nobody even knows if this player will even be top 3 in Europe this upcoming year. Never mind if it be one of the greatest players of all time. So then let's get into the article. And by the way, obviously I can't read the article itself, can I? Because it's one of those ones you have to pay for. But if you can just look at this top part, it just tells you all you need to know. So let's just start here. The article opens with this sentence. I won't read it in French. Basically what it says is, like something like at 18 years old, he is the prodigy of French esports and the ultra-popular Karmine Corp, right? Now, let me just put this out there. What's crazy is he's 18 years old and he's the prodigy of French esports. I'm just going to take that apart immediately and show what utter nonsense this is. Right? If you don't know, Donk right now, look, it depends, because I go back and forth myself whether it's Modesty or Donk. But put it this way, it's between Modesty and Donk. They're 1A and 1B in Counter-Strike. So you could say Donk, 17-year-old Donk, he is still 17, is the best player in Counter-Strike and the reigning world champion, and has won a tournament in Katowice that's equivalent actually to like an MSI type tournament. So basically he's had what people are already saying is not only the best rookie year ever, some people already after Donk's rookie year are not just saying he's the best player in the world and this was the best rookie year ever, they're already, and it's a totally justified conversation, by the way, shadow boxing his 1 year of pro play, his rookie year, against Simple, the GOAT of CSGO's best ever year, 2018 or 2021, depending on which you pick. Most of us pick 2018. That's the level that Donk's already at. And yet we aren't writing articles, by the way, you're the fucking next king of esports. By the way, that would actually be justified in his case. So there's a 17-year-old already doing way more than Caliste's done, who's 18 and hasn't yet played a game. So, by the way, and Donk himself was overhyped just like this. Because Donk had insane numbers at like tier 2 in our online play in 2023 before we got to him playing in CS2 and with the lineup of Spirit, etc. Already people were like, could this be the next greatest player? And even then you had to be like, look, the eye test is incredible, but let's wait and see if he does it. Like, let's give him a check. Do you know how hard it is? What people like Simple and Neo and Forrest and those got Potty. Do you know what those players actually did in their careers, mate? Like, they had some really fucking insane longevity peaks doing it at the biggest hunt. So even then they were overhyped, but at least that one was semi-justified. Then let's go to the idea of like he's 18 years old and he's the prodigy of French esports. You already had a fucking prodigy, you dumb fuck. What are we talking about right now? Like, let me just look up how old Ziwu was in fucking 2019. So Ziwu was born on November 9th, 2000. So that means he would be 19 years old in 2019 at the end of it, right? So that means Ziwu was 18 or 19 years old in his own rookie year in Counter-Strike, where, get ready, he was the best player of the year in Counter-Strike. Now, he didn't win the major, but he won some tournaments, he was MVPs and had amazing stats. So already you had someone else who was himself better at this age than Caliste is yet proven to be. And that was in all of Counter-Strike. Now, yes, in Counter-Strike, we don't really have Korea and China in the same way. But since we don't have them, that means Zero was right at the top of the whole game. This guy hasn't even got to the top of the third best region, Europe in fucking League of Legends. And by the way, when we say third best region, if you actually allowed 10 teams from LPL, 10 teams from LCK to go to Worlds, they'd be third best region, but it'd be like third by 1 million miles. So, like, it's actually already absurd. Like, we're even missing the French angle here. As I just said, Zero was the best player in the world as like an 18-year-old rookie, but suddenly Caliste is the French esports prodigy. By the way, are we also just going to ignore history? We are, because dickheads who write for the keep don't know the history of esports, or even League of Legends, it seems. Because if you go back in esports history, shall I throw out a few other French prodigies? How about Kenny S? He was one of the best players in the whole world going head-to-head with that amazing Nip team at the beginning of CSGO. When he was, like 16 or 17 years old? Shocks when he was unbelievably young as like a source player, was a fucking god, and people said he was the best player, the most talented player ever from that game when he was a 17-year-old, just going to fucking local lands, etc. But no, unproven Caliste, he's the prodigy of French esports, right, guys? And by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. Apparently in the article, Reckless goes to bat for him. Now you might think, oh, that's interesting, like legendary all-time great ADC from Europe going to bat. No, that's a guy who used to play for Karmine Corp on a fucking insane salary that I'll go into some of the details of in my video. And I've heard was such a wanker inside of Karmine Corp that actually that's one of the reasons, I believe it was even said publicly, why their coach striker, who's mega at BDS, left Karmine Corp. Because of what a dick Reckless was within the team. And then I've heard like org people actually sided with Reckless because they spent all this money on him, he's a big draw for sponsors, over their own coach and other people in the org, and him being a shitter to their teammates, Reckless, they just like sided with Reckless. So no wonder Reckless is fucking going to bat for him, mate. I can't even take that in good faith. It's convenient as fuck when you got paid a fucking king's ransom to be a shitter ADC in the LFL, and then also they literally like essentially wrecked their own org and chopped their own head off, as it were, to keep you in the squad for another split. Yeah, I wonder why you might then do them a solid and just come out and fucking glaze their next great player. By the way, what absurd pressure it is to even put onto a player like this, by the way. Like, not only have you hyped into the heavens, but now if he fails at all, not only will some of your own fans hate on him eventually if he fails enough, and they're already going to say, I'm saying this means he's going to fail. But even worse than that, get ready. Now, every other person who hates on Karmine Corp or doesn't like French players or, I don't know, fucking just thinks this player's overrated, they're going to go even harder because they're going to almost act like he said he's the Prince of Esports or whatever. So this is also going to be a rod to be used on his own fucking bat, potentially. It's actually fucking sad. Then I'm just going to throw this out there. I also just don't buy this whole article. Like, notice how it says here, it was written by someone called Paul Arrive with Corentin Parboard. Now, when I go and look at it, it looks to me, I can't know this, like the Paul Arrive is the one who wrote it. Because he's some guy here who, you can see here, a journalist for L'Equipe. And I've just seen him posting, and when I've searched the searches, he was from Esports. He has got a history in Esports. So he goes here, you've probably already seen it since the beginning of the afternoon, but here is the cover of L'Equipe magazine, which will be released tomorrow with Caliste. Inside, 10 pages about him, and especially why he is so expected at the highest level, with words from Kometo, Reckless, his brother, ... Now, just going to throw this out there. I knew nothing about this guy, except very recently where he made a tweet about me and I had a look at his background. So what happened was I made a tweet where when there was a thread where the boss, FFS, explained that he was getting death threats from Karmine Corp fans, and then you go into the thread and it's full of stuff about death threats and all horrible behaviour. I just said they've only been in an LEC for a year, Karmine Corp, and already this is probably the worst behaved fan base Europe has ever seen. So this dickhead guy who writes for L'Equipe in French just goes... He doesn't know what he's talking about. Doesn't refute anything I've said, say how I'm wrong, say what's right. Just goes, dickhead moron. What's he talking about French people? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, if you say so, nobody guy for L'Equipe, I guess it must be right. So I thought, you know what, who the fuck is this guy? I'll have a little look. So I'll go back to here. Oh, that's right. Why is he responding to me back in 2020, 2018? Let's go back. 2016. Oh, in 2016, I'm even doing stuff like talking to Soaz, my mate, by the way, all-time great French player, but for real. And then I'd say this. And then this guy's even responding, like, hey, actually, I did write an article, like, ha ha ha, about trying to kiss my ass, basically, 8 years ago. So this guy has to know. Like, I'm sorry, if you've been around that long, since 2016, and you know Soaz, you know League of Legends, etc., I'm calling bullshit. You're just doing this to go, you're basically just saying, hey, French people, just give me likes. It's us against them. Ha ha. They ain't like us. Ha ha. They will never understand us. Ha ha ha. You are not French like we are. Ha ha. French, French, French. Like, it's so fucking boring. It's so boring. It's so fucking boring. So already I can tell this guy is just a shitheel. And even worse, I'm going to go one step further. In light of the fact that he's now defending the Karmine Corp fans a few weeks ago, and now he's like helping write glaze pieces about how the next Karmine Corp prospect could be like, you know, next in line to the throne of the entire industry of fucking esports and the fucking heir to Faker, basically. What? Like, you know all those great players in esports history who aren't the king of esports, like Jaedong and I Love Uv and Saviour and fucking Potty and Forest and Get Right and fucking keep going, fucking Cypher and Cooler and fucking Moon and Grubby. I could keep going, mate. MVP. You know all those guys who aren't the king of esports? They've already been skipped. in the line to become king of esports, of lineage, this guy Caliste, who's yet to play one game of relevant League of Legends at a world-class level ever in his whole career, he's already skipped the line. He's just waiting right behind Faker, stood next to Chovy on this side, next to Flash on this side, going, well, gentlemen, you're already basically finished your career. You've got a little bit left to prove, but if you guys can just move out the way, L'Equipe says I'm next in line. This is how fucking insane we're already going. So I'm just going to say this right now. I'll say I think, because I have no evidence. I think this guy's in the pocket of Karmine Corp. And if he isn't directly in the pocket of Karmine Corp, I'm just going to say this right now, he certainly behaves like it. He certainly behaves as if he's just here to pander to French fans and specifically Karmine Corp fans. And in doing so, just get a bunch of engagement on the internet, get people to read his shitty little puff piece article, where he just basically writes, as far as I can tell, what Karmine Corp would want him to write. So all of a sudden, L'Equipe magazine isn't like, a world-famous, respected sports magazine writing a profile about the next up-and-coming player who could be really good from the French. No. All of a sudden, this is basically just bad PR from fucking Karmine Corp, just laundered through someone independent, but who coincidentally just denies everything fucked up that their shitter fans are doing. Nah, this gives me a terrible taste, I've got to say right now. Then I'm just going to put this out there. This is just cool. Nobody's making fun of this, by the way, just because of the nationality angle. And because Karmine Corp has really horrible fans who quite, put it this way, for me making this video, they've done it before, they'll probably contact any sponsor they can find on my profiles and lie to them that I've been racist and bigoted and I hate French people and women and that this person was going to buy loads of products from my sponsor, but now they'll never do it as long as they employ a racist, and they'll do all that because I said something they say against them, anti-French, anti-Karmine Corp, and that's what they will do now. And these fans are so bad that you get some people still, because they're sick of being told that your mum on Facebook getting contacted and told she'll be raped and murdered by an esports fan who's 13 from the blue wall. Some people still leak out and say when shit's happening, but I can tell you, it creates a conspiracy of silence where people only do it when it gets really extreme. Aside from that, like back in the day, at a lesser degree, people don't want to speak out against certain orgs. In the modern day, it's Karmine Corp and T1. Back in the day, on a much lower level, it was TSM and Fnatic. So the skewing again of this conversation is ridiculous. And it's only because everyone's just French or a Karmine stan that we pretend like this is reasonable. By the way, think of the drama that people like me and Dom have had to endure over saying Bo had a chance to be one of the best players ever when we already saw him in the LPL, one of the hardest leagues in the world, full of killer junglers, be insane and already show incredible potential. And we already knew behind the scenes, people were actually saying this guy has the best mechanics ever in League of Legends. We were treated like cretins and idiots, charlatans, fucking scum who were just trying to rabble-rouse just because we dared say that. Think about when Milky Way had his rookie split. Amazing again. This is the greatest rookie split since Faker. It's going to be one of the best players. By the way, he didn't make it. After that, he leveled off. His split wasn't that great after that, was he? Bo didn't make it, did he? Or how about, here's one you won't even know because you don't even fucking watch League of Legends, even though, by the way, this is an ADC, and we don't even know if Caliste will ever be as good as this guy, who some of you won't even know when I say him now. Do you know an ADC called Leave? Of course you fucking don't. You don't actually watch top level League of Legends. Well, if you go back to 2023 and you go into the summer split, one of the best teams in the league at the time in the regular split was actually EDG. Did you know that? And what EDG had was, they had a player called Leave, who was a rookie ADC, or like a newer ADC at least, and he was fucking straight fire out the gate. He looked really good. But then the team leveled off in summer and they had their own issues, and they had that thing where fucking Uzi I came back and all that jazz, and then Leave had to go out for some other reason. There's some drama surrounding him, right? That is a player who, again, after that first split in 2023, you could look and go, could this guy be like one of the best ever? Could he be like a Ruler or an Uzi I or a fucking Name or a Def? Could he be one of the greatest ever? There was reasons to do that. Caliste hasn't even played one of these games yet. Again, let's just do a thought experiment for you. Imagine if Dom had heard all the hype about how good Jojo Pion was when he was scouted from solo queue and brought on to like the EG, whatever it was, like Prodigy's team or whatever, which isn't the academy team, it was like the one of like young players. Imagine if Dom had been going, is he the prince of all of esports? The next guy to follow Fake? You'd go, you fucking nut hugger, Dom, you biased, you fucking hack, loser, this is aged badly. We'll remember this forever, Dom. Yeah, standard thing, disrespecting the legends of all just to glaze your boy and hype him. But because this is France and Karmine Corp and L'Equipe magazine, we're just supposed to pretend this is not only is it fine, it's good. It's a good thing that we're doing all this. Yeah, this is just nothing weird at all, is it? Yeah, just how it's all going, isn't it? So you know what? Who knows? Maybe Skumond will be the greatest jungler of all time from Europe. Maybe Caliste. Sorry, I said Caliste, didn't I? But I meant to say, oh shit. No, we can't even remember any of the other ADCs that came out of that region, can we? Fucking hell, like, for all we know, this guy could be one of the best players ever, but that doesn't mean he'll be one of the best in all of League of Legends, and that certainly doesn't mean he's anywhere close to ever being one of the best esports players ever. So as usual, hacks from the Keep and the French scene have conspired to make a stupid scenario where they say everyone else is trash, and never made it, never been good, all bombs, etc. But apparently a guy who's never played a game, well, he's already like that much behind fucking Faker, isn't he, for the greatest to ever play in esports? They say no man is an island. We all need people who've got our back, and supporting me and the content on my channel are the following people: Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, The Concept, Animosity, Banediesel, Ben Glass, Jasun, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Torin, and you know it, always a special thanks goes up to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question for my video AMA? Do you want to take part in one of those lengthy discussions where I talk about whatever topics are on your mind? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming guests are, or maybe even to suggest a guest or a topic for my content? If any of those perks or others catch your fancy, well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where? In the Patreon link in the description box below.